It's 10 o'clock. This is Sky News at 10, our top story. Benjamin Netanyahu sets out his plan to take full control of Gaza.
We don't want to keep it. We want to have a security perimeter. We don't want to govern it. We don't want to be there as a governing body. We want to hand it over to Arab forces.
As his cabinet discusses the military maneuver, families of hostages held in Gaza demand a deal to end the war and release their loved ones. Also tonight, Roshanara Ali resigns as homelessness minister over a rent increase row. Putin eyes up the UAE as a possible venue for a Ukraine summit with Trump, but will Zelensky be included? A cut in the Bank of England interest rate, but higher inflation to come, fed by rising food prices. Centre Bali's chair makes a stand. The very public spat between Prince Harry and the charity he set up, showing no signs of abating. And we'll take a first look at tomorrow's front pages in our press preview from 10:30 right through to midnight. Good evening. We begin tonight in the Middle East, where Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has set out his plans to take control of all of Gaza. Speaking to Fox News ahead of a key meeting with his security cabinet, he said Israel doesn't want to keep the territory or govern it, but it wants a security perimeter. Hamas claims Netanyahu wants to sacrifice the lives of hostages still held in Gaza. The United Nations says an all-out occupation of the territory would have catastrophic consequences. Our international correspondent Diana Magnay reports.
Demonstrations in Jerusalem outside the Prime Minister's office, as inside the cabinet discuss a full military takeover of Gaza. Many in Israel don't like that idea, but in an interview with Fox News, the Prime Minister made himself clear.
Will Israel take control of all of Gaza?
We intend to, in order to assure our security, remove Hamas there, enable the population to be free of Gaza, and to pass it to civilian governance. That is not Hamas and not anyone advocating the destruction of Israel.
Earlier, families and supporters of the Israeli hostages threw yellow swimming rings into the sea off the coast of Gaza to symbolize rescue, a last-ditch effort to stop the government in its tracks.
Netanyahu's government is doing nothing to rescue them.
I hope, I pray that it won't go through. We need, first of all, a deal for all the hostages. Afterwards, you would be able to do whatever you need to do. We have the power to do that. We can do that. But first of all, we need to bring all the hostages alive and unalive home.
But risking the hostages' lives is a gamble Israel's leader seems prepared to take. On day 671 of this war, promising to double down on what's left of Gaza rather than push for a deal. And there is precious little left. Gaza from above is a hellscape. The UN says 78% of all structures have been damaged or destroyed. No schools, no farmland, no nothing. For more than 2 million people, their homeland in ruins. Living in tents or on the street, squeezed up against the sea, endlessly displaced. Their brothers and sons killed as they hunt for supplies, a people facing famine and forced starvation. Fadia al-Najjar's son was one of more than 1,500 killed as he tried to get food for his family.
As long as they continue to kill us, then we know that this is a conspiracy against us. And this is a trap by the politicians themselves to kill our children. And now you tell me Netanyahu wants to occupy us? He's occupied it already. From the north all the way to the south, the east and west, there is nothing left.
And ramping up the military onslaught can only compound this misery. Diana Magnay, Sky News.
Well, next tonight, the resignation of a homelessness minister who found herself at the centre of a rent hike row. Roshanara Ali quit her role tonight following reports she'd evicted tenants from a property she owns in East London before increasing the rent by £700 a month. Let's go live to Westminster now and our chief political correspondent, John Craig. And John, she certainly wasted no time in leaving.
A very swift resignation, yes, which suggests that she was ordered to quit by 10 Downing Street. A hugely embarrassing story, this, for the government. This is the woman who was the Minister for Housing and Homelessness. She was renting out a house in East London, close to her Bethnal Green and Stepney constituency. 3,300. She ejected some tenants and then put the rent up to £4,000, which was an increase of £700 a month, and a 21% increase. She talked previously about private tenants being exploited by landlords. Now, she was forced to go. No doubt there was a lot of pressure. The political opponents were calling for her to go. This is her resignation letter. Quite a long letter. She talks about her record in government, but a key paragraph, she says this: further to recent reporting, I wanted to make it clear that at all times I followed all relevant legal requirements. I believe I took my responsibilities and duties seriously, and the facts demonstrate this. However, it's clear that continuing in my role will be a distraction from the ambitious work of the government. I've therefore decided to resign from my ministerial position. Well, there were indeed calls for her to go, and the Conservatives have responded to her resignation by saying she's done the right thing. The Conservative Party chairman, Kevin Hollinrake, has said that Keith Starmer promised a government of integrity, but has instead presided over a government of hypocrisy and self-service. Once again, it's one rule for Labour and one for everyone else. And he goes on to talk about this government's endless sleaze and scandal. Well, this is embarrassing. It's another resignation. The Tories claim it's the fourth since the general election. With the government's dwindling popularity, it's the last thing the Prime Minister needs. His reply to Rushanara Ali, pretty short and curt, to the point. There'll be fury amongst the highest levels of government. I mean, it's a pretty egregious example, really, of what politicians talk about: do as I say, not as I do. And double standards is the allegation. She's gone quickly. It's the middle of the recess, it's the middle of the summer. She would hope that the government would perhaps hope it hasn't got as much attention as it might have done had it happened during when MPs are here at Westminster. But it's a very embarrassing resignation. The government, if they think they can contain this, they're going to have a lot of difficulty, because the political opponents will continue to make hay with it, even though she has gone quickly. So another scalp. Seat, she had a majority of less than 1,700 with an independent candidate second. It's one of those seats where Labour could be in trouble from left-wing challengers such as Jeremy Corbyn's new party at the next general election.
We shall see. John, thank you very much for the moment. Vladimir Putin has teased the UAE as being a possible venue for his meeting with Donald Trump. The two leaders are expected to talk face-to-face for the first time in 7 years. The Russian president also touted a meeting with Ukrainian President Zelensky, but insisted there would need to be conditions met before that could happen. Our Moscow correspondent Ivor Bennett reports.
It felt like Vladimir Putin was giving us a clue. His meeting with one leader in the Kremlin today, signalling where he might meet another. The United Arab Emirates appears to be the most likely venue for the summit with Donald Trump, after the Russian president held talks with the Gulf states' leader.
We have many friends who are ready to help us organise such meetings. One of them is the president of the United Arab Emirates, so I think we'll decide on something. This would be one of the very suitable places.
Their last summit was in 2018, and the next could be in a matter of days. Donald Trump is desperate for a deal on Ukraine, but it sounds like Moscow sees benefits too.
This, of course, can become an important historic event, an event when Russia's position will be clearly conveyed to President Trump, and we hope that this dialogue will continue even more actively, including in the economic area.
For the White House, though, the priority is peace. It had given Russia until Friday to end the war or face sanctions. News of the summit came after US envoy Steve Witkoff's visit to Moscow. but it doesn't necessarily mean there'll be a ceasefire.
On the one hand, a summit could mean that a significant point of agreement has been reached, and all that's needed now are for the leaders to sign off on it. On the other hand, it could just be for show, a tactic by Russia to temper US anger. They could just be agreeing to something that gives the illusion of progress, which in reality delivers anything but.
Well, I know that
This expert in US-Russia relations sees grounds for optimism.
Trump is not stupid, he has his own deadlines. If he has a summit for nothing, that would put him in a rather embarrassing position back at home and also with his allies, because he has invested a lot.
But Russia has left the American president disappointed before, and there's still no sign it's willing to compromise yet. Ivor Bennett, Sky News, Moscow.
Well, in the past hour, President Trump was asked about conditions on a possible meeting with Russia's president and if the ceasefire deadline still stood.
It's going to be up to him. We're going to see what he has to say. It's going to be up to him. Very disappointed, yeah.
Does Putin have to meet with Zelensky in order and before you and Putin have to meet? Or
No.
Are you
so you're willing to? That's actually important because President Putin said this morning he was pretty dismissive of this idea of meeting with President Zelensky. President Putin was. So for you to meet with him, he doesn't have to agree to meet with Zelensky. Is that what you're saying?
No, he doesn't. No.
So when do you think that meeting?
They would like to meet with me, and I'll do whatever I can to stop the killing. So last month, they lost 14,000 people killed last month. Every week is 4,000 or 5,000 people.
Let's go live to Washington, D.C. now, and our correspondent there, US correspondent David Blevins. David, mixed messages, it seems, from the White House tonight.
Yes, I'm not sure that we're any clearer this evening than we were at this time yesterday. A short time ago, the White House press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, in a statement said that President Trump was very keen to meet with President Putin and President Zelensky because he wants this brutal war to end. She said the White House is working through the details of these potential meetings, plural, and details will be provided at the appropriate time. But as you've just heard, following that statement, the president wouldn't really be drawn on whether further sanctions would be imposed on Russia by tomorrow's deadline. He said that a meeting with Putin was not conditional upon Putin also agreeing to meet with Zelensky, and took remarkably few questions compared to usual, appeared a bit weary in relation to all of this. It's very difficult, quite frankly, to gauge the prospects for a meeting between Presidents Trump and Putin right now, because we don't know what President Trump meant when he talked about great progress having been made in Steve Witkoff, his special envoy's meeting with Putin yesterday. Does it mean that the Russians are more inclined to call a ceasefire, as President Zelensky is now claiming? Does it mean that Putin is ready to sit down with Zelensky too? That would be quite remarkable. Or does it mean that President Trump is now preparing to concede some ground? The US Secretary of State Marco Rubio says the Americans now have a clearer idea what Putin is asking in return for a ceasefire, but we don't know what that is. All we do know is that Russia continues to advance into Ukraine, and it's difficult to see why Putin would be prepared to dilute his red lines at this point.
David, thank you. Many questions remain unanswered there. The Bank of England has cut interest rates for the fifth time in a year to 4%. It was a tight decision that means the base rate is now at its lowest level in more than 2 years. But the bank also issued a warning about higher inflation to come, as our business correspondent Gurpreet Narwan explains.
Mealtimes are getting more expensive. Food prices are on the up, and they're driving inflation higher.
It's hard times, inflationary costs in a business are ever increasing, and you just wonder, when will it stop?
Paul Kelly runs a turkey farm in Chelmsford. Higher labour costs are forcing him to put up his prices.
We pride ourselves on the hand plucking and the hand finishing of our turkeys. So by its very nature, it's very labour intensive. So whilst we can be as efficient as we can, we have to accept the fact that we've got to pay whatever the labour charges are at the time.
In the autumn budget, the Chancellor raised employers' national insurance contributions and the national minimum wage. Those costs are now being passed on to us, and the Bank of England has taken notice. If you had to put a weighting on, how much of this is to do with poor harvests, how much of it is to do with NICS increases?
Very roughly. Well, there's NICS and a few other things going on domestically. It's no more than 50-50, put it that way.
The bank thinks food prices will push the main inflation rate to a peak of 4% in September, before it comes down again. But the bank also cut interest rates by 1/4 of a percentage point, taking the base rate to 4%. It said rates would gradually come down from there. Inflation above target, but the bank is cutting rates. That seems counterintuitive, yet the committee is getting more and more worried about poor growth and rising joblessness. There are no easy choices here. The rate cut today wasn't a surprise, but the Bank of England didn't come to this decision quickly or easily. Members of the committee had to vote twice before reaching a consensus, which just highlights how difficult it is to get policy making right in the current economic climate.
I think the vote really reflects what a finely balanced decision it was. The risk around immediate inflation is a little bit higher, but on the other side, we've seen, I think, a little bit more softening in the labour market. So we're having to balance these two things. Yeah, we've got risks going in both directions.
But the bank can only cut rates so much while inflation lingers on. That means mortgage holders rolling off their fixes will have to wait for deeper savings.
In the past, we fixed for 5 years. We then fixed for another 5 years. I was hoping to do that again, but I'm not sure now. It's great that rates have been cut today. However, moving forward, I think it's still not sure. We're still not sure exactly what's going to happen, and that's quite a scary place to be.
A rate cut today, but the bank left us with very little to celebrate. When it comes to good economic news, it feels a bit like we're picking at scraps. Gurpreet Narwan, Sky News.
When I say I will stop at nothing to secure our borders, I mean it. Defiant words from the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, as it was announced that migrants who crossed the Channel yesterday had been detained for deportation for the first time. It's part of the new one-in, one-out deal between the UK and France. 155 people made the crossing, but the government declined to say how many had been detained. Our communities correspondent Lisa Holland reports.
It's really unusual to see inside the registration process for migrants who've just arrived by small boat. But the Home Office has released this footage of people being detained at Dover as part of its new deal with France to send some of them back. In doing so, it's warning people smugglers and their customers that reaching the UK's shores doesn't necessarily guarantee an onward coach trip to a UK hotel. In an accompanying poster campaign, the message they could instead be boarding a plane to be deposited back across the Channel. But will the scheme act as a deterrent? We visited a number of asylum hotels to see if migrants think the pilot project will stop others making the journey.
You came by small boat across the Channel?
Yeah.
Do you think sending people back to France will stop people like you trying to cross the Channel?
I don't think so. People are coming, yeah.
They'll still keep trying?
Yeah, they're trying for coming here, yeah. We have to come here. Our country is war, you know. Yeah, there's Taliban now.
This man came to the UK from Iran 2 years ago on a student visa, then claimed asylum. He thinks the scheme could work, but migrants say they will always find ways to get to Britain.
Do you think this arrangement with France will stop people trying to cross the Channel on small boats?
Yeah, good work, good job. Because,
You think it will work?
Yeah.
On Wednesday, Sky News filmed as 155 migrants were picked up in one day from 2 boats. Some of these people are expected to be amongst the first to be sent back. But crucially, the Home Office won't say how many migrants it's detained or how many they plan to return. The so-called one-in, one-out deal involves Britain accepting a migrant on a safe route from France.
No one should be making this journey in the first place, and that's why this is now starting the process to return people and to undermine this vile trade in people.
Since 2018, more than 175,000 migrants have crossed the Channel by small boat. There have, of course, been other attempts to stop them. Significantly, the failed idea of sending asylum seekers to Rwanda. This pilot scheme is more likely to actually happen, but the real question is the impact it will have. Lisa Holland, Sky News.
The very public spat engulfing the charity set up by Prince Harry shows no sign of abating. Yesterday, the charity watchdog concluded it had found no evidence of widespread bullying at Sentebale. But now the charity is calling for clarity as to whether the report specifically investigated claims of racism and misogyny against the Duke of Sussex. Our royal correspondent Rhiannon Mills reports.
The report into the row held them all to blame. Now the war of words has started again. This time, the team around Chair Sophie Chandauka calling on the charity watchdog to clarify that they didn't specifically look at claims against Prince Harry. A source at Sentebale told us, "We've written to the Charity Commission stating that the onus is on the Commission to restate for the record that individual allegations of bullying have not been investigated or addressed in the Commission's report." They've done it because they're not happy with how it's been reported that Prince Harry's been cleared over claims of bullying. But the Charity Commission report did say they hadn't found any evidence of widespread or systemic harassment or bullying within Sentebale. From speaking to all sides, there is one thing they agree on, and that's that the report wasn't wide enough to solve the problems, and they're all annoyed the Charity Commission has sat on the fence. A source close to the former Board of Trustees and Prince Harry didn't hold back, saying it is remarkable that just yesterday Miss Chandauka was applauding the Charity Commission's findings. Yet today, after a flurry of unflattering headlines, she's back on the warpath, rehashing unsubstantiated allegations of bullying, misogyny and more, which the Commission found no evidence of, and dressing them up as veiled threats isn't just provocative, it is pitiful. With the row still so personal and playing out so publicly, PR expert Mark Bukowski says it's hard to see how anybody is benefiting.
Obviously, Sentebale are wounded, and the people and the various sort of people involved with it are wounded, and that takes a lot of energy out of you. And perhaps you're not up for the fight. Existing in a charity world now is not easy. It depends on who stays involved and whether or not they can stop the story and whether or not they can build on a positive narrative. If they can't, then I suspect its days are numbered, which would be incredibly sad, and one hopes that isn't the case.
We approached the Charity Commission, who again urged all sides to put their differences behind them and allow the charity to focus on its work. Hard to imagine at the moment with passions still running so high. Rhiannon Mills, Sky News.
Exclusive data obtained by Sky News has revealed widespread scepticism amongst lawyers about proposals to tackle the backlog of court cases in England and Wales. An independent review has suggested scrapping some jury trials and creating a Crown Court division for less serious offences. But many think it will worsen the quality of justice. Our correspondent Ashna Haranag reports.
He's, just found a love and passion for it and good at it,
Diane's husband, Martin, adored cycling. He was doing what he loved when he was killed by a reckless driver on a winter morning. But the family's pain of losing him was compounded by their prolonged wait for justice.
Had no idea that when the crash happened in November 2020, the conviction wouldn't be upheld and heard until June 2023.
The trial was postponed 3 times, often without warning.
You're building yourself up for all these dates, preparing yourself for what you're going to hear. You just lose faith in the system. You feel that there's a system there that should be there to help and protect victims, to be victims' voices. But it was just really takes its toll.
Was there ever a point that the delays got so bad you reassessed whether you wanted to even pursue this anymore?
I think there were times that it did get like that.
There are thousands of people like Diane stuck in a backlog that's out of control. As of March this year, there was almost 77,000 cases waiting to be heard in the Crown Courts. Only radical reform will reduce it, says Sir Brian Levison. He recently proposed creating a type of intermediate court in his landmark review, a separate tier of the Crown Court made up of a judge and 2 magistrates. In this exclusive data for Sky News, the Law Society asked 545 criminal lawyers what they made of some of the proposed plans, including whether they think the introduction of an intermediate court would reduce the backlog to pre-COVID levels over the next 3 years, and 60% said it was unlikely. As for the impact on outcomes, well, 56% told us the quality of justice would be made slightly or significantly worse if intermediate courts were brought in. We then asked about the potential for jury trials to be removed for certain offences like dangerous driving. Almost 3/4, 73%, said this would cause concern. Whilst Levison suggests offences should be moved to a new Crown Court division, when we asked lawyers ahead of the review being published, there was widespread support for moving some cases to the magistrates instead, including drug possession, theft, dangerous driving and having an offensive weapon. But there was much less support for more serious assaults being moved out of the Crown Court. Those on the front line of justice are working in a system close to collapse. So we asked some of the country's leading criminal lawyers whether reordering cases will fix the disorder.
It's moving a problem from one place to another, like moving the deck chairs on the Titanic, they say, isn't it? It's not going to do anything. I think the problem with it really is just lack of resources or the lack of will to give the appropriate resources.
Do you think there are some aspects of this that could bring down the backlog?
I don't want to be a pessimist, but no. If we can find the money to set up a whole new court, then why do that? Why would we not just put the funding into the existing structure?
There are also concerns about serious and complex cases being tried without a jury.
There's a real risk that that people from minority backgrounds are negatively impacted by having trial by a judge and not a jury of their peers who may have the same or similar social background to them. A jury trial is protection against professional judicial decisions by the state.
The industry says it can't be fixed unless it's fairly funded.
They have to view it as the vital public service that it is. It's as important as the NHS. It's as important as the education system. If it crumbles, there will be catastrophic consequences.
For many, it is already crumbling, and the consequences are putting lives on hold. The government's court minister told us that whilst they have boosted funding in the justice system, the only way out of this crisis is bold and ambitious reform, so are carefully considering Levison's proposals. They say they won't hesitate to do whatever needs to be done for the benefit of victims. Ashna Harinag, Sky News.
A major crackdown on cosmetic procedures in England is being proposed by the government. The measures would mean only suitably qualified healthcare professionals will be able to deliver high-risk treatments. But for many, professionals and patients alike, the reforms aren't coming soon enough. Our correspondent Katie Barnfield has spoken to the mother of one patient who almost lost her leg and life to a botched procedure. And a warning, her report does contain post-surgery footage.
This is a picture of Louise in A&E. They had to time the sepsis to see how quickly it was transferring down her leg.
Janet's daughter Louise went for a cosmetic procedure she was told was simple and painless. Instead, she ended up minutes from death. Rushed for emergency surgery, told they may have to remove her leg to save her life.
They were preparing her for amputation. Sorry. Louise was hysterical at this point. I couldn't think past, she's going to be okay, she's going to be okay, they'll operate and it'll be fine.
Louise had travelled from Bolton to Essex for a procedure called a liquid Brazilian butt lift, injecting large amounts of filler.
Louise walked in the building and was told that the person that she's been speaking to, paid the deposit to, wasn't doing the actual procedure. While the treatment was going on, she was in pain. I received a call at 8 o'clock on the Sunday morning, and it was Louise literally explaining that she was going to die.
Currently, anyone can carry out cosmetic procedures classed as non-surgical with no medical training. But the government has now announced plans to change this, so only qualified medical professionals can do the highest risk procedures, like liquid BBLs. Ashton Collins runs Save Face, an organisation that's been campaigning for more regulation, even before 33-year-old Alice Webb died after a liquid BBL last year.
We're actually delighted that, they've taken on board the campaign work that we've been doing for the last 2 years, warning about the highest risk of treatments that are now being routinely performed on the high street, the most common of which is the liquid BBLs. We warned in 2023 that there would be deaths without action.
The government says procedures like Botox and lip fillers are a lower priority, but will eventually be covered by a council licensing scheme. Recently, Sky News reported on several cases of life-threatening botulism linked to fake toxins sold as Botox.
The top of my eyelids was down here and I couldn't see.
Jane and her daughter Lou had what they were told was Botox at an aesthetics clinic last August. Jane is still in constant pain.
We believed everything she said that she was putting in our faces, but then the side effects, the burning, the bruising, not being able to talk properly, the government need to act because we can't be the only people that have had this happen to us.
None of the changes will be introduced until after a consultation process that starts next year.
Totally disappointed and annoyed and upset that it's going to take them so long.
For some, like Janet, change can't come soon enough. Katie Barnfield, Sky News in Bolton.
Well, that was Sky News at 10. Coming up, we'll take a first look at tomorrow's newspapers in the press preview. Tonight, we're joined by Mark Wallace, the Chief Executive of Total Politics, and Baroness Aisha Hazarika, Labour peer and broadcaster. Amongst the stories we'll be discussing, this on the front of the Daily Mail. Its headline, Minister for Hypocrisy is forced to quit. We'll be right back. Do stay with us.